Bob is a PhD student, and like many PhD students before the age of Wi-Fi and caffeine IVs, Bob's research journey began at the library. Finding sources back then meant a scavenger hunt, a confusing, mysterious maze of what? Question marks. Bob didn't find information, he excavated it. Bob was armed with nothing more than a pencil, a card catalog, and I'd say a ton of optimism. Bob searched for articles like they were buried treasure and sorted them in, with index cards, writing down the call numbers and hoping he didn't drop his research. Once Bob found the book, he still had to read it, all of it, and then determine if it was even useful. Because Bob did not have Control F. I think that's one of our favorite research tools in the modern age. By the time Bob finally sat down to write, he was surrounded by his books, notes, questions, and an existential crisis of trying to figure out what information was useful. Back then, there was no easy way to catalog information. There were no Excel sheets. Everything was on paper, right? So by the time it came down to writing on his trusty Smith Corona, Bob had to remember everything he read, organize it, connect it, and somehow make it sound like academic brilliance rather than the caffeine-fueled ramblings that were, in fact, Bob's research. But finally, he typed on an actual typewriter, and when he made a mistake, he had to start over again and again and again. Thankfully, those days are gone. We live in an age where we have computers, which lead us to just amazing things, right? And then even today, Bob has a computer. He's got digital libraries, Google Scholars, advanced stuff. You can search Scopus, Elsevier, Semantic Scholar, and even the Web of Science. But that still leaves us searching 10 or 15 different databases. Even worse if you're only using a university database. Bob still has a problem, though. Jumping between tabs, exporting citations, filtering duplicates, ridiculous. Nowadays, we have something even better. One tool, one search, every database. We can export clean citations, we can analyze keywords, and essentially we just have fewer headaches, right? So right now, what I wanted to do was give you a quick overview of one of my favorite research tools, Publish or Perish. With this tool, you can search pretty much every database, including Google Scholar, and still filter for relevant things like publishing years, obviously keywords, but we can go even deeper. So let's take a look at Publish or Perish and see if it can help you in your research. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to head over to the Harzig website, and we're going to find the main Publish or Perish link. So this is software that you download onto your computer. It's not web-based, but you can download this on any computer. It doesn't require administrative privileges. So you can install this at school or at work or wherever, and it won't be an issue. For those of you with iPads, unfortunately, you'll need to use a real computer because it is actual software. It gives you a link for Windows or for Macintosh to download. You can also, for those uber nerds, we've got Linux as well. But most of us are stuck with the basic stuff. So this website, I would bookmark it. It's a wealth of information. It will help you get everything configured. And once you have it all set up, then you can just launch the interface. Once you open it up, you'll get an interface. Yours won't look exactly like mine yet, but you'll get it set up. So over here, we'll just walk through it real quick. Up top here, you have your recent search history, which is great because you can always go back and find some papers that you may have found for a previous search. You'll notice that you have your search terms listed over here, and when you click on them, it will populate the keywords you searched for previously, right? And you can also see the source that you searched, the number of papers that you limited it. So let's go ahead and start a new search. We will give Google Scholar a shot first. And we'll search for, in this case, flight instructor, retention, and study. So we'll be able to include citations. We won't search for patents, and we can have it also only review articles so that it doesn't pull back books. We will set our term limits, so we want the most recent papers, so we'll look for the ones that are only in the past 5 years, and just click search. And right now it's going through Google and finding, or Google Scholar, and finding every single paper that it can, up to, in this case, a maximum of 50 results. So from this screen, we've already got a lot of wonderful options. So, for instance, we can search by the number of citations. So we can see that these papers here are the most highly cited, right? We can also filter by publication, so that, for instance, right here, Journal of Aviation, this is what we're looking for in our particular case. CAR is good, the Collegiate Aviation Review. We can also search here by publisher. So this will become more useful later. And then it also shows you what type of document you have. So, for instance, if this is a book. More than likely, we're not going to use a book. Well, I won't, because I don't want to read a whole book for some random assignment. Now that we have this, we can go on to the next step, right? So how do we access this stuff? Well, this makes it really easy because we can essentially export everything. So what we can do is we can save a lot of different things. So the first one, I know that some people struggle with APA. I do the same. It's a thing, right? It's part of the learning process. So what we can do is we can export all the results as APA references. So if we do that, it'll give us our save dialog. We'll add it, and I'll just save it now so that I can show it off pretty quickly. When we open that document, we can see that we have all of our references in the proper APA citation. So there's a lot of things that you can do with this. Obviously, you can copy and paste them. It's not written in the hanging indent form, but very easily you can just go ahead and format it, and then there you go. So now we've got a properly cited or properly formatted reference that you can copy and paste anywhere. Sometimes the assignment calls for something off the wall, like adding a properly cited thing into an Excel sheet. Nobody would ever do that, but sometimes your assignments might call for that. Hopefully you have a good reference manager. With a good reference manager, none of this will matter. But now let's go to the next section, probably the most interesting thing. So now we have a ton of articles. How do we figure out if they're useful or not? Well, step one, we're going to save these results in an Excel sheet. All right, so the first step in actually sorting all of this information, because we haven't downloaded anything yet, so we're not going to bother even reading a paper until we make sure that the papers that we're looking at meet our criteria. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to copy this over into an Excel file. Once we do that, or we're going to copy it as an Excel file. So once we do that, we'll create a new Excel document. You can call it whatever you want. And then it's literally just a matter of copying and pasting it into your document. And boom. So now we have everything that we need to go on to the next part. So I'm going to break here real quick, and I'll format this document so that we can search it. All right, so now we have a table, and we can see all of our information here. So we can do this in a number of different ways. I just like to make it to where we've got the word wrap enabled. And this makes it a little bit easier to search since some of these are very long. Because as you can see, there's also an article URL here. And you'll essentially wind up with a giant list of documents. So this will have the authors, the title, as well as the publisher. and then most importantly, you will have the URL for it. You can also go further, and once you go further, you can make your life a lot easier because we have an abstract included and then the direct Google Scholar URL if you're looking for it again. All right, so now we can go through and we can figure out what do we care about. So for instance, we can filter only articles that have DOIs. This makes our life very easy, right? Because in general, if an article has a DOI, the chances that it's, scholarly are much higher. So let's limit it to these. So now we have all of these titles here. So in my case, let's look at something. Let's care about virtual reality. So we've got a good article here about virtual, or actually even better since we're doing aviation. Let's go to a very, very good topic, which is the lack of women in aviation. Right? We can see here we have a link. We can see it's a Springer link. So it should be a good article. We can simply copy this, pop it into our browser, and here we go. So now we have the entire article. You still have to go through the whole thing of logging in with your institution and whatnot, but here you have now found a very good article. And we can do that with most any one of these. Sometimes they do work, sometimes they don't. But what's really cool is you can filter out a lot of sources that sound academic but aren't. For instance, PhD theses are not necessarily useful in your research, although they might contain great supporting information. They're probably not the best as a primary source. But so once you've found all these, you can see here's a Taylor and Francis one. Same thing, we just copy it over, pop it into the link, and there we go. So now you've essentially searched all of the possible databases and come up with a good list to start working. Now, let's say that you want to dig a little deeper. In each one of these, we can take this same search, we will copy it, and we can do a new search, and we can pick from any of these places. So Google Scholar is always a good thing. Some of these require a login, but we can try Scopus, right? Same search, and there we go. So Scopus only returned this many for our particular search parameters, which is good. So the smaller our list is, the less we have to search through. It's important to keep in mind that the keywords that you use are very important. If you put them in the keywords part, it's one thing. You can also put them in the title words. So let's find only things that have flight instructor, and we can see now we've got a bit more. So for instance, here we go, artificial intelligence and pilot training. So from here we can see we have the DOI. We can also copy individual things, so the APA reference. We can also export these to reference managers, which is a whole nother ball game. We absolutely need reference managers at this point in the academic career, because otherwise you'll never be able to keep track of anything. But here's that was just kind of a brief overview on it. If you want me to go more in depth into this, let me know. But I figured I would show a way to very quickly browse just a tremendous number of journals so that you can save yourself a lot of heartaches and clicks. Right? Remember, we're beyond the age of the card catalog and typewriters. We have essentially unlimited information at our fingertips, and we run into the different problem of now how do we actually go through and find the important stuff. Just to give you an idea, so if we head just to let's go to Scopus. Right, and we'll do kind of the same thing. We can search here and see what they come up with. We'll do the same thing. And we get a whole bunch of stuff as well, right? But there's nothing really in here that we're not also finding in Publish or Perish. There are caveats. So within the Scopus search, for instance, you can narrow it down by subject area. Interestingly enough, aviation isn't one of those. So we'll see how helpful that is, right? but all of the different search engines are going to be pretty much the same. Be careful with this preprints. So sometimes this will take you to things that have not actually finished the peer review process, so that might give you an issue as well. But yeah, so pretty much the same thing. It's just instead of searching each individual one, right, we would need to do the same thing for Google Scholar, Elsevier, whatever. We just have everything right here. As you get more into what's important, you can see the citation metrics, right? You can check the H-index of individual articles and see what matters to you, right? So, for instance, actually, I used the Sharma paper at one point. It finds really good stuff. It's still important that you go through and read these. The best way to do that is through your reference manager. So, for instance, I use PaperPile. I've plugged it before, but you know what? I'll just go ahead and show you guys why. So when we have our reference manager, so not only do we have all of the information, so for instance, the reference manager here also gives us our citation at the bottom, which you can have it auto-populate within your documents. What's really cool here is if we make a change, it will reformat every instance in your paper, and we'll take a look at that at some point. But the other cool part is we have the ability to see the PDF directly within PaperPile, and even better, when we look at the actual PDF here, we have the ability to annotate. So you can highlight within the document, and of course I would pick one. Oh, there we go. So this is a section that I found helpful. It's annotated within this, and we can also then, I'll find one that has a little bit more citations in it, or a little bit more citing or highlighting in there. So let's see, what's a good one? So I'm pretty sure I went through a lot in this one. So in here we can then open up the table. We can see that there's 2 citations in here that I wanted to use, or 2 quotes, but we can also print only the annotations. When we do that, what we get is we get this sheet of everything that we highlighted. In my process, I just print this out, and when I need to reference something from a particular source, I've got it all right here. Anyway, short overview. Let me know if you want me to go more into publish or perish, or the citation manager. So I think I'll do a PaperPile video next, just to kind of show you guys the importance of this. Some people keep spreadsheets, some people, there's just a lot of ways to do it, and not using a reference manager at this point is you're setting yourself up for failure, because you lose the ability to do all of this. Because you can also, for instance, search them, right? So if I'm caring about gender and aviation, I can search every paper that I've ever uploaded in here for gender or whatever other keyword, and this will make your theming and everything else just so much simpler. Well, that's it for this one. If you guys have other questions, let me know. I'm going to try and do at least one helpful video a week to share what I've learned through both my master's and now in my PhD journey to make everyone's life just a little bit easier. We don't live in the past anymore. We don't have to walk uphill both ways. We don't have to use card catalogs. We don't have to write down sources on index cards. We can do everything directly from our computer in a very useful way. Well, thanks for watching. If you like it, share it with your friends or fellow students, and ask questions, right? So the whole process is about learning, supporting each other. So if you've got information that might help me, please share it. I'd love to hear it.